So to begin with, guys, the history of this game was it's the fourth game in the Western AKI game series. I know you've also got Virtual Pro Wrestling 2 and Virtual Pro Wrestling, which also came out for the N64. And this was a continuation to the amazing games as WCW, NWO World Tour. You got Revenge, you got WWF WrestleMania 2000, and you have this game being No Mercy. With the history of the game, it was a game that was being all mocapped and all the different storylines happening around April, May, June 2000. So if you noticed in the game when we're talking about later on the story/career mode for the game, that it was all based on these different storylines. It was all based on the 99-2000 storylines as well, with like the Mick Foley retiring and stuff, and the whole Rock actually where he won the Royal Rumble but actually didn't win the Royal Rumble because his 2 feet touched the floor and that kind of thing. Also as well, the game was released in November 2000 over here in the UK and America. It was another game that was created by AKI. This game as well was a game that has been applauded and so many different times given Game of the Year, given so many accolades because this game is so good. Also as well, with the mocap being done for this amazing game, it was all done by the Hardy Boys and Lita and stuff. So you get to see different things, and when you're like looking back and watching old WWF SmackDown or Raws or the pay-per-views, you can see certain sequences and certain things that actually happen in the game. Where in the game you would collect your weapon from the crowd, and you can see on an episode of SmackDown or on an episode of Raw or on a pay-per-view, for example, you can see when these things are happening. And it's really cool just to see how much this game has developed and how much this game has differed, where originally this game had full entrances, but due to the way it was made and everything else, they had to cut that down. And also as well, this game had a really big story, had amazing wrestlers, and they were able to add more to the creator wrestler mode as well. And also as well, guys, talking of the development of the game was announced in early 2000s, where with the popularity of Revenge and WrestleMania 2000, the WWF wanted AKI to make another game. So at E3 that year, there was a demo for the game showcasing playable wrestlers you can play as well as showing the arena for SmackDown, because by the time WWF WrestleMania 2000 came out, SmackDown, the show itself didn't start yet, and it was quite cool to kind of show this new arena, because then it shows that they're actually going more with the flow of when the shows were happening. So then with having the SmackDown arena, they were now finally in line in the timeline with the WWF, so they weren't missing something that was integral to the program when this game was released. And also as well, with this game being made, there was also going to be integration with the transfer pack, and there being a version on the Game Boy. But with this not going very well, they just scrapped it and they ended up making a full game for the N64, being this one. But there was a big bug with this game. It was a bug that I had on my cartridge when I was a kid, but it was one of those things that I didn't care because I loved the game so much I carried on playing it anyway. But it was like it was a bug that would literally wipe out the whole of your game. So everything that you've done, like your creator wrestlers, your career modes that you've done, anything you bought on the SmackDown Mall, anything that you've done throughout the game will just be completely wiped out. But THQ, when they first heard about this issue, they recalled all the cartridges that might have had the issue, and then they put out new ones, so then this would stop happening. But it's one of those games that even with this terrible issue, I didn't care because the game was so good that I would happily carry on playing the game anyway. And it's something that had so many great reviews. I remember owning the N64 magazine and the official Nintendo magazine that we had over here in the UK, and it was having these amazing reviews. It was having all 90s, and I think it even got 100 in one place. I think it even got a high review rating as Ocarina of Time, and that just shows us how good of this game is, that even for non-wrestling fans, this game is amazing. And also as well, guys, going on to my history with this game is, I remember, as I said, reading about it in the N64 magazine and the Nintendo official magazine and stuff, and being so excited about this game coming out, and so excited about them being a sequel to one of my favourite wrestling games ever, with Revenge and also, in a sense, WrestleMania 2000. Also as well, just seeing how different the game looked and just how different the models were, where they actually looked more like the wrestlers, and actually seeing in the magazines, oh my god, they have their names on them now, so rather than being confused like who's who, okay then, so that guy's that one and that guy's that one. Because that was one of the things sometimes you got a bit confused sometimes with the wrestling games, is because it was just player 1, player 2, or CPU, or whoever it was. You didn't really know who was who. But with this game, it started to be like, okay then, so you've got The Rock is player 1, Triple H is player 2, Steve Austin's player 3, and then someone else could be player 4, and it's really cool, because even something as simple as that, to me, was a really big thing. Also as well, just seeing it everywhere. It was one of the games that I wanted to buy. I waited till after my birthday to go out and buy the game. Like, I remember going to Electronics Boutique, which we had before it then became a game, and then it's now moved to somewhere else in the town that I live in, to go and buy this game. And I remember going with my mum to the shop, waiting in line for ages to buy this game because I wanted it so badly. And then I remember buying the game, going home with the game, and just playing it for hours upon hours upon hours. Like with this game, I would lose so many hours in it. It was a game that I would just play non-stop. It was the one wrestling game, or even the one game, that I would happily go back to and just play and play and play and play and play. This game as well was one of the games that I highly, highly, highly regret selling, because I wanted to buy a PS2. Like when I was a kid, I sold off my NES, my SNES, and my N64 with all the games and everything to go towards buying a PS2, which I loved. And then I was able to play games like Here Comes the Pain, for example, being another amazing wrestling game, which I will look at with its 20th anniversary being in 2023, for example, But at the same time, I missed this game. This game meant a lot to me. This game is one of those games that I would happily go back and play many times. Like I know it's not been released on Howdy Game yet, but I got me and Tony to play the game because it's like, Tony, you have to play this game, and I even went out and bought the game for Tony because this game is amazing. And also as well, it's one of those wrestling games that I have in my collection, because what I decided to do a couple of years ago is start on my own wrestling video game collection, where I'm going and buying different wrestling games. Doesn't matter what console it's for, if it's for the N64, PlayStation, NES, SNES, Amiga, in television, you name it, I'm going to buy the game. And this is the only game that I've bought boxed as well as loose, because I want this game complete in box, in pristine condition, because this game means that much to me, and this game is the game that I would highly recommend to anyone. Where if they ask me, oh, what's your favourite game on the N64? What game do you think of when you play the N64? Because I'm a part of a N64 group on Facebook, and I always put up WWF No Mercy every time, because to me, this game is the game that I think of when I think of the N64. I know you've got other games like Mario 64 or GoldenEye or Banjo-Kazooie or any of those kind of games, but for me, this is the game that I think of when I think of the N64. Now, guys, man, this is gonna be good. And looking at the gameplay / content to this game, there's a shit ton of it. You think there's a lot of content to Revenge or WrestleMania 2000, but this game basically is like, you think those games have content? No, wait till you see this game. Like, this game has so much you can do in it. There are so many more different match types you can do. You've now got a ladder match in this game now. You've got the fact that who... It's a very simple thing, but the fact you now have the actual name to the wrestler of who... like I said before, who's playing as, when I was talking about the history of the game and my history to the game as well. You have the SmackDown mode that you can go, and when you earn money throughout playing either the Royal Rumble mode to see how far you can get into where it's a mode by itself, or by going through the story mode, / career mode, as it were, and you can earn all the money to then go and buy different moves, weapons, characters, and that kind of thing. Like, you can buy Shawn Michaels rather than just playing through the story mode, and I like that because it gives you a different way to unlock different wrestlers too. The creative wrestler was so much more now. Like, you can literally design everything that you want. The creator moves are now much more better and bigger now, and you are able to create your own finisher. You're able to incorporate different moves. You can have like a finishing move that lasts like 10 seconds or 15 seconds, or you can have something that is like this big elaborate move. The gameplay, oh my god, the gameplay to this game is amazing. I know that there wasn't much of a leap between each game, but this game was just the perfect thing of everything together. You know, you had a game that was easy to play but hard to master when you're able to play the game really, really well. And the gameplay is so good with just how it plays and everything else, that this is one of the wrestling games that has different tournaments at conventions like MagFest, for example, you know. Also as well, the way that you're able to do everything and just how the reversals work, how much more fluid it is, how much more faster everything is, just how much more the moves actually mean something. The fact as well, they put in as well, weight restrictions and size restrictions. So rather than the other wrestling games, you can have, let's say for example, someone of the size of a Rey Mysterio being able to choke slam or power slam the Big Show or the Giant, for example, you know. But now you have to do it properly, and when you actually hit it, you can see the power and just the oh my godness of when this happens. And there's also moments as well where you can't even slam these big wrestlers, and then you take a lot of damage yourself. And I really like that because it actually is incorporating more of the weight restrictions, where you've got like a light heavyweight, a heavyweight and a super heavyweight, and I really like that because it adds more to who people are going to play as, and it makes each of the wrestlers themselves different to each other. Because with the gameplay as well, each wrestler feels so different to each other. I know in the other games they all felt different and they all felt like they were themselves, but in this game, this is the one that shows you just how different they are. Like each person, when you do a strike, like Steve Austin could do a strike with a punch, Undertaker would do more of a strike with his, like, the big boot, and that kind of thing, where it shows you just even to the smallest minutia of a simple move, like a simple strike or a simple grapple, just how different these characters and these wrestlers play. And I really like that. Also as well, there's so much you can do. There is just so much that you can just find and play and do everything in this game, that even when I lost all of my data several times when I played this game and everything, I didn't care, because the gameplay is so good that I happily went back and replayed the game so many times to unlock everything again, because I love this game and I love the gameplay that much that I didn't care and I would happily play it again. And that just shows you just how good the gameplay really is, that even having a terrible game-breaking bug that would break other games, even lesser games, that people did not care because this game is that good, that people overlooked this terrible bug and they would still carry on and play the game and say such good things about the game, because the gameplay and the content to this game is so vast and so good and so excellent and just so like mwah, that people just didn't care and they enjoyed the game because it is that amazing and worth every penny, because this game's gameplay is just amazing. And with the design of this game, guys, the design as well is fantastic. You know, all the wrestlers actually look like the wrestlers properly. They don't look like they've just had a face splashed onto a 3D model. They actually look more like the wrestlers. They move more like the wrestlers. Like, rather than it feeling more like, okay, just a generic model moving, but they do some things when they do the entrance like the wrestlers. But when they actually do the match properly, they actually move more properly. The moves work more because, like I said earlier, it was all done by mocaps. That was really, really cool. Also as well, like, when you have the wrestlers talking and you have the amazing design of in the story mode of the speech bubbles and everything that you can do as well, which is fantastic. Just the very simple things of when you have a show starting, when you're going through the story mode, when it's WrestleMania with all the fireworks going off, the way that people talk to each other, the way with the speech bubbles and everything else. The design to this game was just top notch, and it is for me one of the best looking and best designed N64 games ever. And I know I haven't really mentioned a lot to do with the design in its sense, but it's designed so well and so good that you guys just have to play it for yourselves to see why design is so good, and how with something so simple as the menu is so good and so easy to use and so easy to navigate that you don't care. And with something like the story mode, and if something happens in the particular like story and career mode that you're playing through, design of it is really cool because you can see that there's different situations that happen throughout the story mode and throughout the different ways that the game is done, that no one's way that they play through a particular story will be the same. And looking at the story and career mode, the story and career mode for this game is vast, it is unique, it's unlike any other story mode I've ever seen. With other story modes, they give you just a full year, you do this particular thing or that particular thing, but in this one, you can choose to play through any different championship mode. You can do World Championship, IC, Tag Team, Women's, Hardcore, European, and I really, really love this because it gives the career story mode something new and something fresh. And with this game having such a great story career mode, like I mentioned before, in the design aspect to this game, you have the amazing bits of the wrestler coming out doing a promo with the speech bubbles saying what they're saying, like there was like a retelling of what happened in the WWF in late 99, early to mid 2000. I really like that with this, and it makes everything that you do seem more important. Like even when you're using a create a wrestler mode, you can tell that you are, in a sense, it depending on what you do, either as The Rock or Chris Jericho or Triple H, Steve Austin, The Undertaker, and it all like just adds more to it because you feel like you are playing through a WWF storyline that was happening at this particular time that this game is set in, and it all ends at WrestleMania where you become the champion of the world. And my god, guys, this game has so much repeatability. As like I said earlier, guys, in the gameplay aspect, this game has so many different tournaments that is based around the game. Like you've got Magfest, for example. And also as well, guys, this game has so many mods made from this game, because I know there's other mods, like you've got mods for Mario or Zelda or Sonic, for example, but there are so many different mods that you can find and play for No Mercy, which are based on WCW, Impact, Ring of Honor, modern WWE, classic WWE, AEW, New Japan, any wrestling promotion that you can think of, there will be a mod for No Mercy based on that different promotion. And it's really cool to see just the work and the effort these people put into these different mods, because they wouldn't be doing it for any old game if the game didn't have much replayability or much great gameplay. And with the mods, it helps give the game new life and it helps freshen it up, where you can play as different wrestlers, you can play different arenas, you can do a different story/career mode. You know, it gives you so much more you can do. And also as well, with this game being so vast in what you can do, and just so vast in everything, that when it comes to, you know, it makes you want to get all the money to unlock everything in the SmackDown Mall. It will makes you want to play through all the exhibition matches, play through all of the career mode, create these amazing wrestlers, create these amazing finishing moves, you know, create a really, really cool pay-per-view that also as well you can create your own King of the Ring, and you can see how many people you can beat in the Royal Rumble and see how far you can go through that when it's like the survival mode. And it just has just so much you can do. Like the repeatability for this game is so vast and so big that I think people will be playing this game, if we can, on the original hardware and via mods and emulating this amazing, fantastic, great game for many years to come. And with my rating for this game, it has to be 5 stars out of 5. I'll be honest, after the way I was bigging up this game and making it sound like the dog's bollocks, the bee's knees, you know, God's gift to wrestling video games, just making it seem like, oh my god, this is the biggest, most epic game ever, that I feel like I had to give it 5 stars, because otherwise I'd look really stupid if I didn't. You know, like I said earlier in this review, the content's amazing with how much you can do in this game, where it adds into the repeatability as well. The gameplay is brilliant. Just everything about this game is just so good. And also as well, guys, it's one of those games that I'd recommend to anyone to play. If you're a big fan or if you're a non-fan, You should go out and play this game. It's one of those games that, with the amazing gameplay that it has, and with everything that you can do, that even if you are a novice, you can still enjoy the game and you can still find the different nuances and find how it works, and just how with everything else you can see, okay, I can see why this game is that good, because it is simple to play but very, very, very hard to master, which is what I love about different video games, because I find with a lot of video games nowadays, especially with wrestling games nowadays, that it's very much like, okay, you have to be a wrestling fan to enjoy them, and well, I find for me, it kind of puts people off of wrestling games. But with this one, with the fact that the gameplay is quite simple, it means that people who don't like wrestling can go out and play it and be like, actually, this game is really good, and I can see why people love it so much. And also as well, it's one of those games that is highly, highly, highly in the top 5 wrestling or even N64 games ever. Where for me, I even mentioned, like I mentioned earlier, that I always put it up. When anyone thinks of an N64 game or even a wrestling game, what would you think of? I always put this up as number 1. And even though, yes, I love games like Here Comes the Pain, but for me, this is the best wrestling game ever. This is one of those games that I recommend to anyone. And this is also one of those games that, for me, is one of the greatest games ever and is in my top 5 video games of all time. Like, if someone said to me, Mark, can you recommend me a video game? This is one of those games that I would always recommend, along with Turtles in Time, for example, and Differ, where I might also include Galaxy 2 or Super Mario Bros. 3, for example. But No Mercy and Turtles in Time are always, for me, the games that I will always include in my top 5 or top 4, 3, whatever you want to call it, video games ever, because this game is so good. This game is so amazing. This game is so perfect in what a wrestling game should do, with its amazing gameplay, story, career, design, content, everything that you can think of, what makes a game great. This is the game that ticks thumbs up, that is positive to do with something great. This game is that. This game is the GOAT. This game is the best. And this game is definitely worth being on the bucket list of video games to play. And even being 20 years on, no other wrestling video game has been as perfect as this one. And that, my friends, was my very, very special episode looking at WWF No Mercy 20 years on, being the final episode in the AKI Wrestling video game review series I've done for Neo Wrestling. Let me know, guys, in the comments below what you think about this amazing game, as well as do you prefer the other AKI Wrestling video games, like, let's say, for example, Virtual Pro Wrestling 2 from Japan, or do you prefer Revenge, or do you prefer WrestleMania 2000, or even World Tour? You know, just let me know down below. And please don't forget, guys, to like, follow and subscribe to No Wrestling on all the different social medias, podcast networks, and YouTube too. And that was No Wrestling, guys. I've been an amazing host, as always, your boy, Mark Sylvester. And don't forget, guys, to take care, and always remember, WWF No Mercy. Do-do-do-do-do. Break it.